What good is the right to sit at a lunch counter if you can't afford the price of a hamburger? So he started studying and speaking more on the question of poverty, and he realized it was such a big problem, impacting so many people across the country, that he was going to have to bring together a really big group of people to fight it. So that's why he called for a Poor People's Campaign. And he traveled to cities like Detroit and New York, but also small towns in rural states like Mississippi and West Virginia. And he got in touch with poor blacks, poor whites, poor Latinos, poor natives, and poor Asians, who were all facing the same fundamental problems and trying to make change. Dr. King asked for these leaders to come together, to travel from around the country and meet up in Washington, D.C. He was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, just 1 month before they had all agreed to gather. But the rest of the people involved decided they had to move forward with the campaign, that that's what Dr. King would have wanted. So in May of 1968, they converged on Washington, D.C., and when they got there, they set up a tent city on the National Mall. They stayed for over a month, 3,000 of them, banging on the doors of all the politicians' offices, telling their stories and demanding change. They demanded the government set aside $30 billion to fight poverty. They demanded full employment, guaranteed income, and the construction of 500,000 units of low-income housing every year until homelessness was eradicated. They also set up in the tent city their own internal structure. They had an education tent, a child care tent, a healthcare tent, a food tent, a psychiatrist, and their own city hall. Together, in that camp, they were able to make a better life for themselves than most of them had back home. And they called their tent city Resurrection City. They said it was the city where you don't pay taxes, there's no police brutality, and you don't go to jail. Resurrection City lasted 6 weeks until the police came and tore it down. Without Martin Luther King around, many of the other leaders struggled to come up with clear plans and work together. But we're coming up now on the 50th anniversary of the Poor People's Campaign. And there are more groups than ever around the country facing these same issues. There's about 1 million more poor people now than there were in 1968. Things are worse now than they were when Dr. King was out in the streets. So we here at Chaplains on the Harbor are getting together with people we know to help plan a new Poor People's Campaign for today. And we don't know what it'll look like yet. We don't know if it will be a tent city in Washington, D.C. or something different, but we are ready to try, and we are inviting all of you to be part of it with us. And tonight we're taking the first important step in that direction, which is speaking out and telling our own stories about this stuff. It can be hard to think of yourself as a leader when you're struggling and when you're poor. It's really hard to imagine yourself as the next Martin Luther King. But the thing to remember is that Dr. King didn't do any of this alone. In fact, he wasn't even around when they finally got the thing off the ground. It was poor people who made it happen. Some of them could not read. Some of them were disabled. Some of them were sick, and many of them had been to jail. But it's them that made this thing happen. And here in 2016, we believe it will be those same people who make things happen. There was a group from Washington State who went to the Poor People's Campaign, and there was even a guy from Grace Harbor County who went. He's still alive. His name is Hank Adams. He's a native guy, and he grew up on the Quinault Reservation. He went to high school in Moclips, and there was a high school in Moclips. I sent him some fan mail last year. I have not heard back from him, so if any of you know him, put a good word for me. Excellent. Yeah, I would love to contact him. And when he was there, he was only about 25 years old. He was one of the key leaders of the original Poor People's Campaign. So if you're struggling right now in Grace Harbor County to make it, this story is already in your DNA. This is part of our history locally, and it's the original Poor People's Campaign was for and by people like us right here, and the new Poor People's Campaign is our campaign too. So I'm done talking. It's time for you to talk right after Bishop Rickel comes up and helps explain the ground rules.
Okay.
Which you can read along if you need help. They're right
I got it.
Okay, perfect.
Well, first, I want to say what a blessing it is to be with you. It's always a blessing to be with you, and it's great now to walk into this room and see familiar faces and see smiles and know names and get hugs. there's a holier place we could be than in this room tonight, because you're going to share your stories. And there's a great holiness about that, and I'm honored to be invited to be in your presence while you do it. So thank you for that. And I'd also want to say to Sarah and Aaron, don't ever shut up.
And feed
Don't ever shut up.
Don't worry about it.
Don't ever shut up. I know I don't have to worry about it too much, but still, never shut up. Now, I think the last thing you did was come here to listen to me, and this is my hope. I'm going to give you the ground rules, and if we all follow them, you'll never have to hear from me again. Because I think I'm supposed to be kind of a referee tonight.
Yes.
But I trust you. So, but I'm gonna lay these out anyway, so we all know. Here are the ground rules. Only people with personal experience get the mic tonight. In other words, if you have the experience of homelessness, been affected by homelessness, then you can speak. Otherwise, no. There's no trash talking about speakers when you get your turn. You can, if you need to curse, you can. A lot of this makes us curse. It makes the point. You can do that. But don't do it about other people. Don't trash other people. No disrespectful language. Don't call people junkies. Don't use racist slurs. You know what those are. Don't do it, or I'll have to speak again. If you want to speak, if you suddenly feel moved to speak, you can come up to the front and talk to Sarah or Aaron or me, and we'll work that out for you to get in on this. Everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Any problems with that? Am I going to have to get up here again?
No.
All right. Amen. Amen.